Ambassador Thexanael had lived through 7 galactic conflicts, but none haunted him like the human war. As he addressed the newly inducted species at the Galactic Council, his crystalline form dimmed with the weight of memory. The young representatives from the Outer Rim needed to understand why humanity held such a unique position in galactic politics. They seemed so unremarkable. Thexanael began, his telepathic voice resonating through the chamber. When humanity first petitioned for membership 50 years ago, we barely gave them consideration. A single-world species from the galactic backwater, with primitive fusion drives and kinetic weapons. The hegemony of Veltar had been expanding for millennia, consuming entire star systems. What could these newcomers possibly offer? The young delegates shifted restlessly. They had heard fragments of the story, but never the full truth. The Veltari hegemony made the same mistake we all did, Thexanael continued. They saw humanity's small fleet, their outdated technology, their apparent inexperience with interstellar warfare. When humans refused to surrender their colony worlds, the hegemony decided to make an example of them. They would demonstrate the cost of defying a galactic superpower. The ambassador's form flickered as he accessed archive battle footage. Holographic displays showed the initial assault. Thousands of Veltari warships, each the size of a small city, descending upon human colonies like metallic predators. The siege of New Geneva lasted 3 days, Thexanael said quietly. When it fell, 2 million human civilians were dead. The hegemony broadcast the destruction across hyperspace channels, expecting humanity to surrender immediately. Instead, they received a single transmission from Earth. The recording played in the chamber center. A middle-aged human woman in a simple military uniform appeared, her face carved from stone. Admiral Sarachin spoke with the kind of calm that preceded hurricanes. "You have made a grave miscalculation," she said simply. "We are not a species that yields to fear. You wanted to demonstrate the cost of defying you. Allow us to demonstrate the cost of genociding us." The transmission ended. Several delegates made dismissive sounds. What could primitives do against the hegemony's might? "What happened next?" Thexanael said. "Redefine warfare for every species in the galaxy." The holographic display shifted to show deep space near the Veltari home system. For days, long-range sensors detected nothing unusual. Then the attacks began. Humanity didn't engage in traditional fleet battles, the ambassador explained. Instead, they weaponized physics itself. Their first strike involved accelerating a small asteroid to 30% of light speed using a network of gravity manipulators. When it impacted the hegemony's primary shipyard, the kinetic energy release was equivalent to a stellar detonation. The young delegates watched in horrified fascination as the simulation showed a construction facility the size of a moon simply ceased to exist. "But that was merely the opening move," Thexanael continued. "Humans had studied every species in the galaxy, analyzing our weaknesses with terrifying precision. Against the crystalline Zephyri, they deployed sonic weapons that shattered our molecular structure. Against the aquatic Mordun, they poisoned entire ocean worlds with engineered viruses. Against the energy-based Luxiani, they created darkness fields that drained their life force." The chamber had fallen completely silent. Even the most war-hardened representatives looked disturbed. "The hegemony controlled 8,000 star systems," Thexanael said. "Within 6 months, humanity had reduced that to rubble. Not through occupation or conquest, but through systematic eradication. They didn't just defeat the Veltari military, they eliminated the Veltari as a concept." A young Corban delegate found his voice. "Surely that's an exaggeration. No species can destroy an entire civilization so quickly." Thexanael's form pulsed with bitter amusement. "The final battle occurred at Veltar Prime. The hegemony's capital world was defended by the largest fleet in galactic history. Humanity sent a single ship. The hologram showed a modest human vessel, barely a kilometer long, approaching a massive planet surrounded by thousands of defensive platforms and millions of fighters. "We monitored the engagement in real time," Thexanil said. The human ship did not fire conventional weapons. Instead, it released what they called a stellar collapse bomb, a device that artificially triggered the star's nuclear fusion to cascade beyond stable parameters. The display showed Veltar's sun expanding, consuming its entire system in minutes. 20 billion Veltari died in an instant, the ambassador whispered. An entire species reduced to stellar plasma. The human ship escaped through a dimensional fold, technology they had apparently developed during the war but never revealed. The silence stretched until finally, a brave delegate asked the question that haunted everyone. What stopped them from continuing? Thexanil's form brightened slightly. They stopped themselves. Admiral Chen transmitted a message to the Galactic Council that same day. She said, and I quote, "This is what happens when you commit genocide against humanity. We have demonstrated our capability. We prefer never to use it again. The choice of whether future conflicts escalate to this level rests entirely with our opponents." The ambassador paused, letting the implications sink in. Since then, no species has dared attack human civilians. We have fought 3 galactic wars, but never against humanity, and never with the brutality that characterized the Veltari conflict. We learned that humans possess a unique trait among intelligent species. They become more dangerous when cornered, not less. He gestured to the empty space where the Veltari delegate's chair had once stood. That is why humanity holds permanent seats on every major galactic council. Why their trade routes are never contested. Why their colonies are never threatened. Not because we love them, but because we remember what happened to those who made them angry. A final image appeared in the hologram. Earth, blue and serene, orbited by space habitats and peaceful trading vessels. They returned to being farmers, artists, and explorers, Thexanil concluded. But we never forget what they are capable of becoming when pushed too far. That is the lesson of the human war. Never confuse humanity's preference for peace with an inability to wage total war. The session ended in contemplative silence, another generation of galactic leaders educated in the most important rule of interstellar diplomacy. Humans make better friends than enemies.